Hi YouTube! Welcome to my channel. My name is Kiara and I love music, and I want to help you find new tunes without the algorithm. My credentials are: recently I was having a conversation with a friend about our music consumption habits, and I found out that she is a die-hard let the algorithm speak to you and tell you what you need type of person, while I am the algorithm it's an acquaintance, it's all right, but I don't really need its help type of person. So she wanted to know, how do you find new music if you don't F with the algorithm? And when I told her all the various methods that I used, she said, that is so archaic, like literally giving 2008. Which I thought was complimentary. I was like, yes, girl, thank you. So let's go. The first thing you have to do is get in tune with yourself. Find your musical intuition and remember that the music doesn't have to be new. It only has to be new to you. Okay? So let's start with ways that I use my favorite artists as a jumping off point. The easiest thing in the world is to start in your own backyard. So you probably have like 2 to 3 artists that are your bread and butter. These are the loves of your life. You know their discography front to back. You know everything about them. But then let's say like your next 7 favorite artists that you have more of a casual relationship with, like you don't know every single little thing about them. Go listen to their back catalogues. A great example of this is I've been listening to Sabrina Carpenter since 2017, but I know that there's a ton of people that have recently gotten into her in like the last 2 to 3 years. Of course, like she's been working at this music thing for years and years and years. So she has more than Man's Best Friend. She has more than Short and Sweet. Like she has so many other albums. So if somebody is just getting into her, I would say there's a ton of other gems waiting to be discovered. It's literally free food. Of course, what they've done in the past is not necessarily going to be the exact same vibe as what they're currently putting out because they've evolved as people, obviously. But I like to think that whatever you like about them now, like the seeds of what they're putting out currently were planted way back when. So it's worth a try. Also, this is really cool too. If the artist that you like is currently solo, if they used to be in a band, check out their band stuff. And then the band could be a jumping off point too. Like if the band had multiple members and they are also doing solo stuff. I don't know. There's so much there. Okay. Next, artists have to promote themselves to survive. Like, duh. And one of the ways they do that is by going on tour. Typically, if they're big enough, obviously they'll have like one or more opening acts, and the opening act could be chosen by the label. Other times it's chosen by the artist. It could be a younger artist that they want to champion, or it could be just someone that they think like their music is a really cool vibe. They want to give them a platform. Either way, regardless of who chooses them, the idea is that both the main act and the opening act or acts will have a similar, if not complete, crossover audience demographic. And that's really important because that means the chance of you liking the opening act's music, if you love the main act, like those odds are really high. So even if you can't go to the concert or you don't like going to concerts, whatever it is, looking at the tour poster is still free. Like Bruno Mars, he's about to go on tour and he has multiple different openers for the multiple different legs of the tour. So like you could look at Bruno Mars' poster and be like, oh, I've never listened to Anderson .Paak. I've never listened to Victoria Monet. I've never listened to Ray. I've never listened to Leon Thomas. Not me. I've listened to all those people. But you could look at that and like tap into like each person's discography, see if it's for you. Similar thing is that even if your fave isn't going on their own tour, if they're playing like a festival, for example, look at the poster on the festival because the odds are there's going to be other artists very similar to them playing the same festival. Like, check out the lineup. Use context clues to hop from one person to the next. That's going to be like one of the easiest things you can do. Next, speaking of hopping, make sure you check out people who have features on songs with your faves, or if your faves have featured on someone else's track. So of course, one that's really huge right now is Pink Pantheress. Her song Stateside which is so good. She released a remix with Zara Larsson, which is, of course, like has blown up. I'm a fan of both of these women, so I was excited for this crossover track. But I'm sure that there are people who are fans of just like Zara or just Pink Pantherists, and this song gave them an opportunity to hear about the other person and then be like, oh, let me go check out their stuff. And I just think that's really cute. My last one for this category is read or watch past or present interviews with your faves. A lot of times they will mention artists who either inspired them growing up or who may have influenced their sound on a more recent project. On the flip side, sometimes they'll mention up and coming artists that they think are really cool or who they feel like they're rooting for, or they'll name drop whatever song they're vibing with at the moment. I'm sure, of course, sometimes they're mentioning things because of contracts and whatever, but I like to look on the bright side and think that they really find value in the things they're mentioning. So that's an easy one. The next category is what I like to call the random approach. The first is go to your local library and check out the CD section. Never deny the pull of an album cover that speaks to you visually. If it's like, hey, look at me. Hey, look at me. Check me out. Respond to that. Pull on that string. Also, flip through all of the different genres that you like. There's probably going to be a ton of artists that you're like, oh yeah, their name kind of sort of rings a bell. Like I've heard of them before. I think take that CD out. I used to have a lot of fun exploring that way. And it's also free, which is dope. Now, in the same vein as artists that you're like, oh, I've kind of sort of heard of that person before, I like to do something which I call legacy pulls. And I think that they're really important. And by that, I mean, there are so many incredible musicians and singers who made amazing music before you ever even existed as a person, before I ever even existed as a person. And there are so many names that you probably heard growing up, but you never got the opportunity to like get curious and sit down and explore their discography. So this would be a great time to finally start doing that. These are also the people usually that have CDs at the library. I find that it's a mix of like a ton of old stuff and then a smaller section of like super, super contemporary stuff. But in any case, I spent the last 6 months slowly listening to and going through almost every song, demo, and rough session that Fleetwood Mac has available, because I wanted to know more about what all the hype is for. And of course, there are like a couple Fleetwood Mac songs that I've heard, like Dreams, beautiful. The Chain, sick. But I didn't know like about their back catalog. And actually, I have a book about Fleetwood Mac that I'm going to be reading this year so I can learn more about the history of the band, because I love a biography. But anyway, of course, there's like a million cool artists out there. The person that I have next on deck is Luther Vandross. I'm going to go through his back catalog of hits because obviously there's a bunch, and I'm really excited about that. So the material for legacy pulls is endless. It's endless. The next one, I don't know if this is controversial, okay? I love listening to the radio. Before you leave, before you get mad at me, hold up, let me explain. The radio is your old school way of knowing what's popular for everyone right now, right? Some people could argue that the radio is low key like an algorithm, but there's levels to it, okay? So first of all, in case you don't remember how to access the radio, some people don't, okay? Just let me do this. It's gonna take like 30 seconds. You can either listen through a physical like tabletop radio, which I mostly prefer because I like pressing the buttons to change stations, and I just think it also adds like a sonic vibe to your home. But if you don't have that, you can also still listen to the radio on your phone, and you can either do that by going to like a direct URL for a specific station in your phone browser and then adding a shortcut to your homepage, or there are apps for specific audio services. So the easiest one that I've used is the one that's integrated into Apple Music. Wait. You don't have to pay for Apple Music to access the radio tab. It's free. You just have to log in. So either way, whether you have a physical tabletop radio or a receiver or you're listening through your phone, doesn't matter. As far as content, Typically, you have your sort of iconic top 40 hit stations or your hip hop and R&B stations, your classic rock, your jazz, etc. But then there's also international radio stations. So I listen to a lot of British radio, so like BBC Radio 1, Radio 2, Radio 6. These are examples of pretty popular choices. But something else that I love is this website called radio.garden. I believe they also have an app. It's literally a map of the whole earth. And you can scroll around and click different radio stations from all over the globe. It is incredible. And you can hear some really, really cool stuff. You can catch a vibe in Barcelona and then go to like Montreal. You can listen to stuff that's 2,000 miles away from you, 200 miles away from you. 2 miles if you're close enough to a radio station, which you can find out by looking at the map. But yeah, either way, I love the radio. I think people forget about the radio. Yes, the radio has ads. Grow up. Next, if you didn't know, YouTube, you're already on YouTube. YouTube is a great place to find curated playlists to put on in the background while you're doing other stuff. They can be 20 minutes long, 45 minutes long, an hour plus. I think most of them are like an hour plus. Sometimes it's just an animation on screen, like Lo-Fi Girl. If you know, you know. Love Lo-Fi Girl. But sometimes you can watch the person actually DJ. I prefer those. The options are kind of endless as far as genre. There are a couple that I've saved that I'm really excited to listen to. One called Classic House Grooves, another Smooth City Pop, another Mellow and Chill R&B. And I found that once you listen to one, you'll find so many other channels who do a similar thing. So in that case, like you could technically like let the algorithm show you other ones, or you could just go to the channel that's hosting the one that you're listening to and then click into, you know, the thumbnails that stick out to you, and then it's still your decision. But in any case, sometimes the different channels, they go live, which is really cool. There's never been one where I've loved like every single song that's being mentioned, but sometimes it reminds you of songs that you forgot about or shows you like a remix of something that's really slay. So tap into that. In the same vein, sticking on YouTube, I watch a lot of random music videos on YouTube just for the love of the game because I love music videos. So if you ever see a thumbnail, like if you just go to the music tab right now and you see a thumbnail that speaks to you, just click on it. If the music isn't your vibe, just exit, just bail. Like it's fine. To further follow that string, if you like live music, and this is sort of like my favorite, a lot of the streaming services like Apple Music, they have their own YouTube channels where you can see artists perform, usually in a much more intimate setting, and you can hear what they sound like live, which is amazing. Relatedly, NPR's Tiny Desk is another great example of this, as is the BBC Radio 1 Live Lounge, which is actually my favorite because the artist will typically do one of their own songs and then they'll do a cover of someone else's. Not to bring up Sabrina Carpenter again, but I'm going to bring up Sabrina Carpenter again. She did a cover a long time ago at this point of Late Night Talking by Harry Styles, who is another one of my favorite artists. And it was so beautiful. I was like, damn, I love a crossover. I eat a crossover up. Like I am the person. Like, tangent, when Dua Lipa and Megan Thee Stallion released Sweetest Pie, I don't actually like the original Sweetest Pie, but there's a remix. I'll put the name of it on the screen. There's a remix that is like, oh, it's so good. Anyway, now we're really getting into it, okay? This is the nitty gritty. We're going to be digging. The next time you hear a song that you like, look at the credits. Look at the liner notes. Who produced it? Look at their body of work. Who wrote the lyrics? Look at their body of work. Did the song that you like sample another song? Did the song that you like use interpolation? If it did, go listen to the original track and see what you think. One of my favorite examples of this is this song called Gypsy Woman, She's Homeless by Crystal Waters. According to whosampled.com, which is a great website to find out who sampled a song, among other things. According to them, this Crystal Waters song has been sampled 144 times. I can tell you with my full chest, there are at least 5, no less than 5, probably 6 songs on that list that I love, that I would put in like my top songs of all time. I'm so familiar with this song at this point that like when a new song comes out that makes use of some parts of this Crystal Water song, I can clock it. I can clock it. The original just keeps feeding me. And there's probably a song like that for you that you don't even realize. So do a little research. We always love to do a little research around here. Another thing that I've been getting into lately that's like kind of random is movie, TV show, and musical soundtracks. Now, I'm not talking about like Chicago, for example, which is my favorite musical of all time. The Chicago soundtrack is incredible, but obviously it's very theatrical. I'm not talking about just stuff like that. A great example is F1 the movie, which was a movie. The soundtrack for that movie is obviously very contemporary. It's set in, modern day. It's set in our times. But the soundtrack has a ton of contemporary artists who obviously like made commission works for this film. So it's got Ray, it's got Ed Sheeran, it's got Madison Beer, Burna Boy, Tate McRae. The songs that they made for this project don't just sound like really specific to the movie. Like they sound like songs that could pop up on the radio this week. So if you have a movie like that that's more contemporary that you like, check out if they have a soundtrack. There's a ton of films that have amazing soundtracks, not just contemporary either, like Sinners. Now Sinners is a movie. Sinners is a film. That's cinema. Anyway, Sinners was so good. Sinners, or even like the TV show Daisy Jones and the Six, these projects both feature music that's more specifically tied to like the historical time period of their respective projects. And when you listen to that music away from the project, it still is like very evocative of the source material, like obviously, but they still have individual tracks that I really enjoy listening to on their own. So definitely check that out. Don't Worry, Darling. That soundtrack I actually have on vinyl. Not the score. Scores are very powerful too. I like scores, but some people don't like music that doesn't have words. So the soundtrack specifically is what I'm talking about in this instance. That soundtrack, is so good. This next one is for people who really want to know what's bumping on the charts from week to week. Like they don't want to just listen to the radio and hope for the best. For that, I would prescribe officialcharts.com. I just got into them. I was already kind of familiar with what they do because I always see my favorite artists getting like their top of the charts award from them, and the award is actually so cute. But anyway, on their website they list the songs, all the songs that are hot right now from week to week. They have different lists. One is for singles and they have another one that's for albums. And my favorite part is they let you hear a little 30-second snippet of each song. So I think that is a really great tool to have in your arsenal if you want to be in lockstep with what the culture is listening to. And of course, Official Charts is not the only website that will list them for you, but I like their user interface. Lastly, I'm going to just give like a quick rundown of what I think are sort of like the options for finding new music. The first is ask a friend to make a playlist for you. There's probably going to be some crossover between you and your friends, but if not, that's even better because then they can share their favorite artists with you. You can share your favorite artists with them. Even if it's not like a full-blown playlist, you could just send them a couple names of tracks that you think they might like, maybe for each season, maybe for each season of life. I think that could be really cute, and I've done that before. If you don't have friends, because that happens, you can go on Reddit and you can look at the different subreddits for different genres that you're into and check out playlists that other people have made that have a similar taste to you. Of course, something that I will always root for is shazaming your life. If you're in like a retail space, if you're in a restaurant, if you're catching a lift and there's a song that's going crazy that you're not familiar with, but you're jamming, take note. And what I like to do, if you feel like you're embarrassed to Shazam, or someone's playing something and you don't want to give them the rush of feeling like they put you on, right? Just remember the lyrics. Just like open a note, open a note on your phone or like take a pen out of your purse and write it on your hand. Some of the lyrics, sometimes you gotta keep it quiet as it's kept. You gotta be like, nah, I can't let them know. You can't let them know that you didn't already know about the hot stuff. I get it. Of course, another thing that you can always do, just follow the artist you like directly. Again, they have to promote themselves to survive, so they're gonna let you know. If there's new music coming from them, they're gonna let you know. But also, some of them kind of post personal stuff, and so they'll link up with other artists. Like they went to dinner or they went to the bar or they're just like at the crib chilling. You can be like, oh, I didn't know they were friends. And then you can go listen to that person's discography. And then you're like, oh, okay, cool. Maybe there's crossover that you like between both artists. Maybe you think the other artist is like a cool person, but you don't like any of their music. That's fine. You took a risk. And that's what's important. Also, now that I'm thinking about it, you could probably follow their label. Like if they're signed to a specific record label, there's probably something there. You guys, we did it. We talked about all the ways that I find music. Of course, this list is not exhaustive. This is just stuff that I do. But I know that a lot of people use Bandcamp to find like more indie artists. And then something else that I haven't tried yet, but I think I might if I end up putting my vinyl collection on discogs. A lot of people apparently are using discogs to comb through what other people are collecting, and they sort of hunt for music that way based on like the compatibility between them and whoever that person is, or they look at like what albums have been collected a lot and use that as like a jumping off point. So that's very interesting. Okay, we've done a lot today. I've talked a lot today. You've listened a lot. I hope you were paying attention. If not, run it back, okay? Take your notes. Take what resonates. Don't leave the rest. Come back for the rest. Maybe it will resonate later. I encourage you to let go of convenience a little bit and embrace the challenge. Because it's supposed to be fun. Discovering new music is not supposed to feel like a chore. So, I will leave you with this, which I think is kind of a funny story and a cool proof that there is a method to the madness, okay? I've already told you Harry Styles is one of my favorite artists. I've been a fan for over a decade at this point, which is crazy. Back in 2017, 2018, when he was doing his first solo tour, I was checking out every artist that was opening for him. And for the European leg, it was this girl named Mabel. I'd never heard of her. So I decided to check out her music. And guess what? I fell in love with it. I was like, I want more. So then I'm going through all the songs that she features on, and I find a song called Cigarette. I love that song. Cigarette is by this artist named Ray. So I walk over to Raytown and I listen to Ray's discography, and I loved that. Several years later, now it's 2023, Ray is touring her debut album. I go to see her live. Her opener is this group called Mike Sabbath and the Moon Girls. The vibe in that room that night was so funky and sexy and cool. I was like, who are these people? I love this. So I go home, I'm listening to Mike Sabbath stuff, I'm eating it up. So cut to last week, I'm listening to a song off of one of Sabrina Carpenter's earlier albums. This is the last time I'm going to mention Sabrina today. I'm listening to a song off one of her older albums, and I'm like, ooh, I wonder who helped her make this song. And so I go and I look at the credits for the song. Guess what? Right there, under both composition and lyrics as a songwriter and production and engineering as a producer and mixing engineer, is Mike Sabbath. Yeah. And I have all these people who have made all this music that I've gotten to enjoy over the last few years. All because I was curious about who was opening for the European leg of Harry Styles' solo tour in 2018. I didn't even go to that tour. And look how much I got out of it. I'm just saying, when you do your research, sometimes you get a treat. If there are any ways that I didn't mention that you like to find new music, please drop them in the comments. I'm always looking to expand my repertoire. Or if there are any ways that you found out today that were new and you try them and you find something sexy and cool, let me know. I have a million playlists. We can talk about it later. Okay. I hope this was helpful. I hope you have an amazing rest of today and a wonderful tomorrow. And I will see you next time. Bye, YouTube.